Ethics, religion, medicine, husbands, wives, a jury, family, lawyers, politicians, 19 judges, 30 trials, protesters, haters, supporters, news anchors, and the Pope. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. For the first and certainly not the last time, the courts are going to get involved. And it's Michael who begins the proceedings. He wants to bring charges against the doctors who, way back, were seeing Terri for her missed periods and her weight issues. And he wants to ask, why was the low potassium, which led to her heart attack, never spotted by a doctor? So, fair questions, fair enough. Good to ask those questions. And this is Michael's thing. The Schindlers, her parents, they've got nothing to do with this. They're happy for Michael to just carry on and do this. So he sets out on his own. He asks these questions in court, and the doctors who saw Terri before her collapse are all, in one way or another, being asked, were they negligent? And it's things like there weren't blood tests done where there should have been. It turns out Terri had been seeing one doctor for a good couple of years, and this doctor had never done a blood test on her, which just seems insane. I think is that not a just standard thing that doctors do? If someone is repeatedly coming back, would you not just do a blood test? Anyway, it was never done. Then it turns out at one point a blood test had been done, but it hadn't been labelled correctly, so they could never quite get the right results. And it just goes on and on. Basically, none of the doctors who ever saw Terri did a thorough enough job. And it comes down to a jury deciding if Michael Schiavo is in the right, to ask these questions about medical practices, and is he owed money? And yes, he is. The jury decide that there has been negligence from these doctors treating Terri, and he is awarded $2 million. So by the time the fees and the costs are deducted, Michael is left with $1 million. He receives $300,000 for himself, and the remaining $700,000, it goes into a trust fund to pay for Terri's medical bills. What a ball ache that is. Losing $1 million in fees. I'd be like, sorry, I thought I was awarded $2 million. What's this $1 million chat you're giving me right now? How can £1 million just disappear in fees? How bloody expensive is it to rent a judge? Come on. Now, the relationship, which was once brilliant, between the parents and Michael, it's beginning to cool a little. Well, I say a little, I really mean a lot. After being like, go Michael, find a new girlfriend, they decide that when Michael actually does that, that they don't like it. They don't like seeing Michael with a new girlfriend because it hurts them. Fair enough. I get that, but they suggested it. You fucking suggested it. So you can't then turn around and go, oh no, we don't like seeing you, Michael, with a new girlfriend. Well, it was your fucking idea. And again, it is not that I'm trying to defend Michael's behaviour. Before anyone gets upset and thinking that I'm on, Michael's side with this, I'm not. But he does have a new girlfriend now, and he's still seeing Terri every day. He's still coming to the hospital and caring for her daily. However, Michael, he ends up moving out of the apartment that he's sharing with Terry's parents because communication has broken down and they're just not really speaking anymore. And of course, right, this story is about love, it's about strength, but it's also about money. Terry's parents wanted half of what Michael had been awarded by the courts. They wanted $150,000 from the court case that they had nothing to do with. Now Michael, he says no. He didn't see it as their money. Now they will say, yeah, but it's money awarded on the grounds that before our daughter had a heart attack, doctors were negligent towards her. And Michael will say, yeah, but did you go to court and fight that? No, you fucking didn't. I did. I went, I fought. So now we start to see a little bit here of what each of them is made of. The Schindlers are stubborn, but so is Michael. Michael refuses to give them any money. There was this $700,000 that was put into a fund for Terry's care. So as he sees it, he's saying, there's no more need for any money. I've put £700,000 into her care fund. So, no, you're not getting any of what was awarded to me. And so now it starts to get bitter. The Schindlers decide they no longer want Michael as the legal guardian. Something that they had been perfectly happy with up until this point, up until money was involved. So they go to court and they try to get the legal guardian status stripped from Michael. But the judge hears this and he rules in favour of Michael. He has a really hard time here, the judge. He basically comes down to saying, I don't see why I should remove his legal guardian status as the husband, because I can't really see what he's done wrong in this situation. The Schindlers are furious. They now want guardianship of Terri. They were happy for Michael to have it up until this point, but now they've suddenly decided that they must have guardianship. A doctor's report gets brought in to the courtroom, and a doctor has stated that Michael is showing an expert and attentive deal of care towards Terri and is in management of her condition. There is nothing that the Schindlers really have here to work with, because the way the courts are looking at it, they're going, well, her husband's doing an absolutely stunning job of looking after her. He's there every day. He went to a court. He took down some doctors who hadn't done their job properly. I don't see why we should be handing over legal status, legal guardianship to anybody else. But they're furious, the Schindlers, because now what it means is, well, what it's always meant, but for them it's more clear now, is that they can't make any decisions about Terri without Michael having the final say. They have no control over their daughter. And again, this is where I'll use the word thorny. Given the condition that Terri is in, should they have control? Now, if you stop and you think about it for a second, how would you feel? How would you feel in that situation? Say you were a parent, right? Say you were Robert or Mary. It must be pretty powerless, that feeling, to just be like, I don't have any control over my child's life. At this point, I don't have any control over anything. It's her husband that has this control. But again, I'll just raise the same thing. They never had a problem with it before. And was Michael doing a bad job? No. And again, I'm not being pro-Michael, but I just think the rhetoric of this story, sometimes that kind of gets missed. The story much later, wait till you hear how it fucking develops, becomes good versus evil. And it is important to have balance. Michael was not doing a bad job by Terri. Now, this is 2 years on after Terry's heart attack. She's still in the same hospital, and she's alive only because of the feeding tube that's giving her nutrition. Michael has found a new girlfriend, and her name was Jodie. Michael had met Jodie a few months before, and, they'd taken things very slowly to begin with. Michael was very upfront with his new girlfriend straight away. He explained the whole situation. He told her that he loved Terri as much today as he always did, and that if Jodie wanted to be his girlfriend, she would need to accept that. And Jodie did. She took to visiting Terri in the hospital and looking after her. She would do things like buy and sometimes make new outfits to change Terri into. She would come to the hospital and brush Terry's hair. She became as much a part of the caring for Terri team as anyone else. And this is, it sounds a bit bonkers, right, when you hear that. It sounds a bit bonkers and a bit, I suppose, if you took a step back from it, you'd go, is that a little bit odd? But, this new girlfriend, she really wanted to be with Michael, and Michael was like, I want to be with you, but also Terry's my priority in this situation. She knows Michael is consumed by love for Terri, and she's willing to do what she can to help that situation. By now, the Schindlers aren't communicating with Michael at all. So they see each other all the time at the hospital, but they don't communicate. It must have been so fucking awkward around that hospital bed. I can't even imagine how awkward that must have been. You've got all these people and none of them are speaking. At one point, I don't know what's said, I don't know what goes down, Terry's dad punches Michael in the hospital and the two of them end up in a physical fight. Michael has a lawyer and the Schindlers have a lawyer, and a lot of their communication is done through their lawyers. That's how they communicate with each other. So one day, the Schindlers receive a letter to tell them Michael is moving Terri to a new hospital. A hospital that he deems has better care facilities for her. Now, it's still in Florida, it's just in another part of Florida. And as her legal guardian, Michael can do this. He has the right, he has permission. The Schindlers have got no way to fight this, and, well, see, to be honest, why would they? There's no real reason for them to fight it, because where he's moving her to is a brilliant new facility, and it provides way better care than the hospital that she's in. I think the interesting thing about him making the decision to move Terri to a new hospital is actually, what am I trying to say? No, I know what I'm trying to say. It's about Michael moving on in the story of his wife. Terri is never going to recover, and I know I've said that in the region of maybe 3,000 times in this story so far, but I think for Michael it's now really hit him. So actually it's like he's hearing it for the first time and he's actually understanding it. 3 years after her collapse and finding her in the hallway and all that they've been through, he's finally starting to hear the truth. Terri will be like this for the rest of her life. And so, the hospital he wants to move her to, it's a place where the care is better and it's less focused on trying to fix her, because he's accepted that's not going to happen. Her family might not have accepted that yet, but Michael has. He's accepted. Oh, this is just my opinion, but I think that's what that move is about. I think that move is about going, let's move her into somewhere where the care is better than the medicine, if that makes any sense at all. Because you could keep Terri in a hospital for the next 100 years. Her condition's not going to change. So she's moved to Palm Gardens of Largo. What a name. Palm Gardens of Largo Hospital. And it's there that she begins a new regime of care. And of course, the Schindlers, they set themselves up nearby to be around Terri. After a couple of months in this new facility, the nurses, I don't know why I'm laughing because this isn't funny, but the nurses actually decide that they want to apply for a restraining order against Michael. It's unsuccessful, it doesn't happen. But they apply on the grounds that Michael is overbearing about his wife's care and is constantly in the hospital telling nurses how to look after his wife. So the judge who's looking at it looks at the restraining order and he says, look, I see this very simply as a husband who is, yeah, okay, maybe a little too much, but a restraining order, are we trying to stop him from seeing his wife? He's doing the best he can to give her the best life. Let's just get rid of this. The Schindlers, meanwhile, are continuing to try and go through the courts to get legal guardianship of Terri, but at each turn they are unsuccessful. And now, this is where we will see the next gear change in the story. Michael makes a decision in 1994, which will be the catalyst for the next unbelievable part of the Terri Schiavo story. Terri develops a urinary tract infection. Now, a UTI, as the kids call it, it can be an everyday occurrence, and urinary tract infections, they're actually fairly common and they can be sorted out quite quickly if you get on medication nice and fast. But in the case of someone like Terri, it's much, much more serious. If it isn't treated and isn't dealt with, it can develop into something actually deadly. It can spread into the kidneys and it can cause death. The doctor who is treating Terri for her UTI says to Michael, and I will say I did find this a little bit shocking. I was a bit like, okay, I have to really think about that. The doctor says to Michael, look, if I were you, I would just leave this infection untreated. I would let it spread into her body, because you and I both know Terri isn't coming back. She is going to die one day, and rather than go through this for years and years and years to come, simply let this infection be the thing that helps her move on to where she is inevitably headed. The Schindlers arrive at the hospital where Michael is still thinking about this, and they ask doctors, okay, what treatment is she on for the urinary tract infection? And doctors say none. They're shocked. They don't understand. And they're told that husband Michael has signed a form which says the infection is not to be treated. And there's a second hospital form shown to Terry's parents. A do not resuscitate form. So it's a form which, when signed, means that should a patient go into cardiac arrest or stop breathing, they're allowed to die naturally. This form has been filled out because Michael has decided that should Terry's body run into any complications, she should be able to die from them. Terry's parents hope and pray they're reading this form wrong. They are in complete shock, but there it is, in black and white, in front of them. The form has the name Teresa Marie Shivo at the top, and at the bottom of the do not resuscitate form, it's signed Michael Shivo. Having signed the do not resuscitate form, her family are asking Michael to reconsider. They are pleading with him, they're begging him to rethink his decision. The problem is, and this is kind of what I said a minute ago, Michael has accepted Terry's condition and what the rest of her life is going to look like, living in a vegetative state, in constant need of a feeding tube and care. And as much as Michael loves her, he accepts it's time for her life to end. By now, Michael's been seeing his new girlfriend Jodie for about a year, and they are quite serious. Doesn't mean he loves Terry any less. He still continues to visit. He still takes her to get her haircut, sits by her bed, tells her stories. But this is very quickly moving out of a domestic situation into something so much bigger. Terri Schiavo's name is about to be known worldwide. The Schindlers, they decide they're going to go to court over the do not resuscitate form which Michael has signed. They're like, ya prick, how dare you? But also remember, they have no legal guardianship over their daughter. However, Michael, he stops the legal proceedings. He doesn't want a whole back and forth court trial, and he says, okay, I'll take it back. Give her the medication for her urinary tract infection and rip up the do not resuscitate form. So the Schindlers are quite happy with that. And that's that matter dealt with. Terry's hospital bills are being paid for by the trust, the $700,000, which Michael put away after the court case, proving that doctors could have done more to foresee a problem with Terry. Now, as I started episode 1, I said this was one of the most covered and talked about cases of the 21st century, and we're about to get to why. As I said, this was a domestic situation. This was a family dealing with this. You know, a range of doctors, and so far, a couple of judges. But let's see how that develops. 4 years after Terry's collapse and diagnosis, her husband Michael files a petition without anyone knowing that he's going to do it to have Terry's feeding tube removed. Now, I'm pretty sure I don't have to spell it out, but essentially he's saying remove the tube and then she can die. Michael has made the decision that time is up for Terry and he doesn't want to see her like this anymore. He thinks it's time to just let her go. She's being kept alive by a tube, and no, the time has come for Terry's life. This decision, it puts into motion a chain of events that Michael, the Schindlers, or indeed the world could not see coming. So the first thing to happen is that the Schindlers file an immediate petition against this decision. Now, if you look at it from their point of view, they are powerless, but essentially they're being told, you now have to watch your daughter die. And so the battle begins. Before I continue, one of the things about the Terri Schiavo story that really pisses me off, really gets up my nose, is where is Terri in all of this? I mean, I know we know where she is. I know we know she's in a vegetative state. I know we know what her brain's doing and isn't doing. But where's Terry's voice in all of this? That's the question I have. Does she have one? Well, I mean, of course, that just brings up the issue surrounding patients and patients' rights and people who are in these states. What do they want? Do we know? Did Terri ever have a will, for example? No. She was 26 when this happened. She was loving life. She was like, woohoo, party. She never would have thought that she needed one. Who would? I mean, I didn't have a will at 26. In fact, I don't even have a will right now. Oh, actually, I really don't have a will. I really should get one. Here, I think I'll write one tonight, actually. Okay, I'm just going to leave everything to Alfie, anyway. And when I say everything, I haven't got anything to leave. So I'll be leaving behind a massive collection of Kylie Minogue and Madonna albums. And what's Alfie going to do with some vinyl? Eat them, probably. Anyway, the family is now being told Michael wants the tube removed and Terri will be dead within days. Thorny again, but Michael says Terri absolutely never wanted to be kept on any form of life support. He said this would be her idea of hell. Her brother remembers that at one time she did also say the same thing to him, that she never wanted to be the kind of person who was hooked up to machines. And it's obviously very, very, very difficult, because I'm sure we've all said things in our life in a moment, like you say something off the cuff, oh God, I would never want that to happen to me, or oh God, no, if I was run down tomorrow, just do this with me, or I want to be buried at sea, or it would be, you make all these things, but they're all just conversation and you're maybe not really thinking about them. The difference is that now those innocent comments, Terri casually saying to someone, to Michael, to her brother, oh, I would never want to be hooked up to machines, this is now used in court. It's becoming Terry's right to live or Terry's right to die. Michael is insisting this is not what she wanted for her life. So the judge who is looking over the petition to remove the feeding tube grants Michael the right to remove it and let Terri die. Of course, the Schindlers, they contest this. They go so far as to try and have the judge struck off. They say the judge was incompetent in his decision. Michael is called back to court to argue the removing of the tube, and again, with a brand new judge, he's granted the right once more to do what he sees fit for his wife. By now, right, Michael has been in and out of court so many times, he throws his hands up and he says, okay, right, look, I have had enough of this. The Schindlers are going to fight me at every fucking turn. Every move that I make here is being scrutinised. So, I can't keep fighting. I know what's right for Terri, but the decision now, it has to lie with the courts. Whatever the courts decide, I will go with, because I can't keep doing this. I cannot keep going back and forth. The Schindlers are, of course, giving it, you have no right to decide our daughter's fate. And Michael just says, fine, let the fucking courts decide then. Let them decide how we proceed with Terri. Now, the courts do make a decision here, but it's not the decision that anyone really saw coming. The court appoints something called a guardian ad litem. I had never heard of this term in my life. a guardian, what was it? A guardian ad litem. So what is that? Apart from sounding like a spell from Harry Potter. Well, a guardian ad litem is where the court can appoint an independent investigator who will look at a case that they're struggling with. And essentially what they do is they ask this investigator to look into every detail of the case, interview all of the parties involved, and help the courts to make a decision. It's sort of like the court saying, this is really difficult, we don't actually know what to do here, so what we're going to do is we're going to appoint someone and we're going to give them a chance to look around the situation and report their findings. And so the Schindlers and Michael, they now have a man called Richard Pierce looking into the case. Appointed by the court, Richard comes to the hospital and he sees Terri. He talks to Michael. He talks to the family. Now, the Schindlers, they take this opportunity, as they see it, to keep Terri alive by telling this independent investigator that Terri is responsive to them. She should in no way have her feeding tube removed because she knows when they are in the room. She vocally responds to them. When Richard Pierce interviews nurses will say, the family think she's responding, but these are just the things that Terri does when she's in the room with a nurse. These are the responses she has when the cleaner is in the room. These are the things that Terri does when she's on her own in a room. They're not responses to anything. They're just that bit of her brain still moving her mouth, making the odd vocal sound, moving her eyes. The nurses will say it's horribly hard to say this, but the family think she's responding to them, but actually she's not. She's doing exactly what she does 24 hours a day. The part of that brain that moves the face, rolls the eyes, they're just doing that, and then it's nothing to do with the family. Things are starting to get even nastier between the Schindlers and Michael. Terry's parents say that Michael wants her feeding tube removed so that when she dies, he can get the remaining money in the trust fund, the money that he had won in court. Michael says, bollocks. It's not about money. It's about knowing that my wife wouldn't want to be living this way. The Schindlers are really trying to paint Michael as a man after the money here. So the Schindlers, once more, they take to the courtroom with their lawyer and they try to create a new law. This new law that they try to create states that if you are a person, any person, so if you're, Joe Bloggs, Betty Smith, Harry Benderson, whoever you are in this situation, if this happens to you, if you are in any way going to get money from the situation where you choose a person's death, then you should not be allowed to make that choice. Okay, let's break that down. Let's look at that more closely. They are saying, for example, they're saying this, if I went in right now, right this very bloody second, as I'm mid telling this story, if I went in to a vegetative state tonight, then they're saying that my partner, my parents, shouldn't be allowed to decide anything about my death. Shouldn't be allowed to decide, who gets my Kylie and Madonna collection. Because they will benefit from it. What? It doesn't make any sense. It makes no fucking sense. The Schindlers are trying to say that a third party should always make the decision. So imagine this, And it's horrible to think. It's horrible, right? But I'm just going to say it. Imagine your parent, right? Your parent reaches a fine old age, but then health complications begin. And one day, one of them, say your dad, right? Your elderly dad falls into a state much like Terri Schiavo, and you have to make a decision whether to keep him alive or not. The Schindlers are trying to say that the decision about whether to keep your elderly father alive or not should be taken away from you and given to a third person, because you are going to benefit financially from that death. So what they're saying is, strip all emotion out of it, all family matters. If you have any financial connection, the decision should not be yours. Ludicrous. So Michael, he is, of course, in court. And when he gets the chance to talk, he points out that this is just, like, ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. He says this essentially means that no family member anywhere ever gets the chance to decide on their loved one's death. He also points out a major factor. If this law were to pass and the Schindlers got their way, they too then wouldn't be able to make any kind of decision about Terri's life. Because if the money doesn't go to Michael, it goes to them. And that's like a big, oh, fuck yeah moment. Michael's not contesting this for bad reasons. He's basically saying, if you're going to go down the third party route, then it's just insane, because none of us at this point have any say in Terri's life. The Schindlers' attempt to get this law passed is thrown out. Schindlers are back to square one. And Michael, he continues his plan to get Terri's feeding tube removed. The judge ruling over all of this says if Michael wants it removed, then it can happen. But, he says, further medical examination should be explored first. So now Michael has exercised his right, but the family have also gotten their way, because they're saying, because, you know, the Schindlers are now going, well, can we just do some more tests? Can we just try some more tests on Terri? And just when you thought the Terri Schiavo case couldn't get any more complicated, oh fuck, it's not finished. And so ends part 2.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.